My younger sister organized a charity sale at her school. She spent $5 to buy a love letter and then held it in front of me like a treasure. Look, the recipient of this letter has the same name as you. I looked at the love letter from 8 years ago and fell into deep thought. At the end, the signature read, Sophie Brooks. Isn't that the cold and distant desk mate I had back in high school, who is now my icy boss? Just as I was about to ask more, a phone call came to the house. A child on the other end was crying desperately. What? She wants to kill me. I'll pay $100. Give that letter back to me, now. Because of a mistake made by an intern, our whole team was criticized. As the team leader, I bore the brunt of the scolding. When I walked dejectedly out of the boss's office, the intern was almost in tears. Ethan, I'm sorry, I dragged you into this. I saw the dark circles under her eyes. With the heavy workload lately, our whole team had been working overtime. She hadn't had any rest either. I waved my hand, it's okay. I'm used to being scolded. It doesn't really hurt. Doesn't it? A cold female voice rang out. The intern jumped in fright. I also froze. Looking up, Sophie Brooks had just opened the office door. She was frowning at me, her beautiful, icy face tense with worry. Feeling a little awkward, I forced a smile. No, it doesn't. She stared at me for a few seconds, then closed the door. Later, during work hours, I went out to get some water. I overheard a few interns whispering. The boss is so harsh on Director Walker. He's got a strong heart. I wouldn't be able to take it. I heard Director Walker and the boss used to be high school classmates. Really? The boss scolds an old classmate like that with no mercy. She's a real devil. I shrugged. Who says she isn't? Sophie Brooks truly is a devil. We weren't just classmates, we were deskmates for 3 full years of high school. And she never spared me even a shred of face. I was about to leave when I heard them change the topic. Oh right. I heard the boss is engaged. Not long ago, I saw her fiancé pick her up at the office. What? Someone as cold as Director Brooks has a fiancé? I stopped in my tracks. The hand holding my cup trembled slightly. I looked toward the end of the hallway, where her office was. For some reason, a dull ache rose in my chest. After a month of hard work, our project finally made significant progress. The company gave us 5 days off. The interns were so thrilled they almost cried. I declined their invitation to go out for dinner, packed my bags, and drove home to the countryside. I hadn't been home for half a year. Luckily, my hometown isn't far from the city where I work. It only takes a little over 4 hours by car. By the time I arrived home, it was already late at night. My sudden return surprised my mother, but she was happy and quickly made up the bed for me. My father hummed as he made me a late-night snack. After unpacking, I quietly pushed open the door to a small room. Under the soft light of the living room, I saw a little girl sleeping peacefully under the covers, her face serene and adorable. Lily Walker was born when I was in high school. Due to a moment of carelessness from my parents, we suddenly had a much younger sister. At first, I wasn't used to it either, but as Lily Walker grew up, she became more and more lovable. Perfectly inheriting my mother's patience and my father's intelligence. She was also very attached to me. Whenever she got something nice, the first person she thought of was me. The next morning, I heard some noise and groggily opened my eyes. I saw Lily Walker lying on the edge of my bed, her bright eyes staring at me without blinking. "Brother, you're home?" "Yeah." I closed my eyes again. "Be good, okay? I still want to sleep a bit more. Go to school now, and bring me back some fruit later." I murmured a reply. When she left the room, she even carefully closed the door behind her. Such a thoughtful little girl. She seemed to have plenty of allowance money and even said she'd bring me fruit. I was a little curious. When I woke up, it was almost 11 a.m. and Lily Walker had already been picked up from school by my father. My parents asked me to watch her for a while so they could go shopping for groceries. As soon as they left, Lily Walker eagerly took something out of her backpack and leaned in mysteriously. "Guess what I brought you?" How could I guess? Just as I was about to say something random, she couldn't hold back and raised an envelope in front of me. "Look! Your name is written on it." I froze for a moment and took the letter. The paper was slightly yellowed, clearly from several years ago. On the front of the envelope was written, "To Ethan Walker." Such a rare name. And yet it matched mine exactly. Lily Walker couldn't stop talking. "Today our school held a charity sale. We brought old things from home, and the students could buy whatever they liked. The proceeds would be donated to a rural elementary school. My desk mate brought lots of stuff, old books and school supplies." I flipped through one book and found this letter. "I paid a whole coin for it." She looked at me, clearly hoping for praise. "Brother, do you like it?" My first reaction was that it was just a name coincidence. I had never been considered good-looking growing up, always wore thick glasses, introverted and quiet. When people talked to me, I didn't even know how to respond. So, no girl had ever written me a love letter. I held the letter awkwardly. No girl had ever written me a love letter. Lily Walker urged me, "Open it. Come on, it won't be bad." But still. This was someone else's thing. And a love letter at that, very private. But I worked really hard to find it. I spent a whole week's allowance. Kids are impatient. She snatched the letter from my hand, opened it with a few quick moves, and stuffed it back into my hands. "Brother, read it to me." My classmate said this came from her aunt's treasure box, and everything inside was something good. This must be, too. I was about to decline, but my eyes caught the signature at the end of the letter. The handwriting, neat and elegant, Sophie Brooks. It struck me like a bolt of lightning. I froze for a few seconds, my heart skipping a beat, and looked back at the letter. "Ethan Walker, this is our third year being desk mates." I quickly covered the paper with my hand, my face burning red. My sister kept urging me, "Hurry up and read it. I want to hear it too." Escaping her, I grabbed the envelope and ran into my room, opened the window to let the wind blow in for a long time, but I still couldn't calm down. I looked at the letter again and confirmed it was unmistakable. It was written by Sophie Brooks. Back in high school, my handwriting was like chicken scratch. Our literature teacher couldn't stand it anymore and gave me Sophie Brooks's homework as a model, forcing me to copy her writing for an entire semester. I could recognize her handwriting even if it were turned to ashes. But why? Why would Sophie Brooks from high school like me? My thoughts drifted far as I recalled the first day of 10th grade, the first time I met Sophie Brooks. Back then, I had come alone from a small rural town to study in the city, at the top high school. I carried a large canvas bag stuffed with all kinds of things. When I reached the school gate, I couldn't carry it anymore and had to drag it along the ground. But I had overestimated the durability of that canvas bag. With the rough contact against the pavement, it tore. I had walked quite a distance before realizing something was off. Looking back, I saw my belongings, books, school supplies, toiletries, lunchbox, scattered along the road. The students around were all watching me. Laughter erupted. "Wow, country boys come to the city, huh? That bag looks ridiculous." My face burned with shame. I squatted down to pick up my things. I hadn't gathered much when I bumped into a girl walking by. She had a backpack on, a cool and beautiful face. Her hair in a high ponytail, tall and composed. She held an armful of my stuff and said coolly, "I already picked up the rest of your things ahead, past my shoulder." She glanced at my torn canvas bag on the ground. Do you have another bag? Embarrassed, I shook my head and didn't even dare to meet her eyes. She thought for a moment, then took out a few books from her own backpack. Give me your bag. Use mine for now. I instinctively accepted the girl's white backpack, stunned. How do I return it to you? She pointed at a book I'd just picked up. Aren't you in class A2? Reflexively, I looked at her book. The cover had a class label and her name, Class A, Sophie Brooks. So, about liking. Actually, I liked her first. Unfortunately, for many reasons, that unspoken crush never became anything more. After graduating from university, I started interning at a small, unknown company, and unexpectedly ran into her again. Only then did I realize that the company was hers. Look at that, the gap between people just keeps growing. I was still figuring out how to survive. She had already launched her career. Everyone else had moved on and moved up. So, this love letter. Why did it even exist? I lowered my head, thinking hard but couldn't find an answer. Was Sophie Brooks still around now? Just thinking about that made my heart beat faster, but before I could think further, I suddenly remembered a conversation from the break room, some interns gossiping. Someone said Sophie Brooks probably already had a fiancé. So regardless of whether this love letter was real or not, it could only be a thing of the past. Just as I was lost in disappointment, I heard an angry voice outside the door. It was Lily Walker. Ryan Cooper, you broke your promise. I'm not playing with you anymore. I opened the door and saw Lily Walker clutching her children's wristwatch. Clearly talking on the phone with someone. The other person must have been a classmate. From what she said, I could hear the other party burst into tears. Please. Just give the letter back. My aunt came home suddenly and found out I took something from her box. She almost killed me. I'll give you 100, no, I'll give you all my money. Please just give it back. Maybe the kid was crying too pitifully. Lily Walker bit her lip and finally fell silent. She hesitated for a long while, as the pleading on the other end continued. Fine, I'll go talk to my brother, she said, sounding reluctant. Thank you so much, the boy exclaimed in relief. Then he added, oh right, my aunt is probably already on the way to your house. She asked for your address, she left like half an hour ago. You can just give the letter directly to her. I froze. My heart jumped. I rushed out of the room, grabbed Lily Walker's watch phone, and asked urgently. Hey, kid. What's your aunt's name? The boy stuttered, Brooks. Sophie Brooks. The doorbell rang. I froze for a moment, then quickly pressed my eye against the peephole. Outside the door, Sophie Brooks was patiently waiting. Through the small peephole, I saw her in a casual tracksuit with her hair down. Even though she wasn't wearing makeup, her beauty was still undeniable. She looked more approachable than usual. But that wasn't the point. The point was, if I opened the door now, the two of us would end up in an incredibly awkward situation. How could we possibly keep working together at the company after that? I turned to look at Lily. She was just about to speak when I quickly covered her mouth. Go open the door. Don't mention your brother is home. Don't say who he is, either. Then I rushed back into the room, restored the letter to its original state, stuffed it into Lily Walker's hands, and told her to return it. Then shut the door. At that point, courtesy was no longer a concern. Lily Walker nodded. After I hid myself, she went out to open the door. Sophie Brooks had just opened her mouth to say something when she noticed there was no adult present, only a little girl holding an envelope up at her. Hello. Are you Ryan Cooper's aunt? This is yours. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take your stuff. The little girl looked pitiful, and Sophie Brooks's furrowed brow relaxed instinctively. It's all right. Ryan Cooper sold you something he shouldn't have, that's his fault. She glanced at the envelope. Did you open it? The signs were obvious. Lily Walker blinked her big eyes and quickly replied, sorry, I was just curious and looked a little bit, but I don't know many characters, I didn't understand anything. Sophie Brooks smiled gently, not pressing further. She handed Lily Walker a red envelope. A late New Year red packet. Hope you do well in school. She didn't stay long and left soon after. Once the door closed, I came out of my room. Lily Walker gave me an okay sign, mission accomplished. When the last day of vacation ended, I hurried back to the city where I worked. While preparing materials for tomorrow's meeting, I realized I had forgotten an important file at the company. It included data that needed checking, and waiting until tomorrow would be too late. I hesitated only briefly before grabbing my car keys and heading downstairs. My apartment wasn't far from the company, just a bit over a 10-minute drive. It was a 20-story office building. Our company was on the top floor. I stood outside and looked up at the lights still shining from the top. I couldn't help but feel surprised. The security guard, returning from his patrol, saw me. Who's there? It's me, Mr. Hart. Oh, it's you, he smiled. I'd been working here long enough that everyone recognized me. I asked, it's this late, someone still up on the top floor? Mr. Hart looked up. I just came down from there. It's your CEO, Miss Brooks. She's been working all day. That woman is a workaholic. I entered the office quietly to get my documents, ready to leave right after. But as I passed the hallway, I noticed light coming from the last office down the corridor. I hesitated, then changed direction toward it. Just as I was about to knock, I caught sight of the scene through the partially opened window, and froze, hand in midair. Sophie Brooks was lying on the black leather sofa inside. Her long legs were curled up slightly. She wore a crisp white blouse. The top two buttons were undone, revealing her delicate collarbone. I stood still, dazed, and carefully pushed the door open, afraid of disturbing her. She frowned slightly, even in her dreams, she wasn't at peace. In my memories, she'd always been like that, those beautiful eyes never fully relaxed. But I also remembered a softer side of Sophie Brooks. It was during the second semester of 11th grade. We'd been desk mates for a year. She was the math class monitor, and I was the biology class monitor. One afternoon, the teacher sent us to the print shop outside the school to collect the exam papers. As we stepped out the gate, I unexpectedly ran into my grandma. She had come to visit and was overjoyed to see me. Ethan Walker. I was just wondering how to get inside. Our school rarely allowed outsiders in. Grandma had traveled by bus all the way from our small town, wandering around before finally arriving, only to immediately spot me. She grabbed my hand, chatting non-stop. Sophie Brooks stood a short distance away, waiting quietly. My grandma asked, Ethan, last week I gave you those rice dumplings to share with your classmates, did you bring them? Did they like them? I smiled. Yes, they did. Everyone said your cooking was amazing. That's good. Her wrinkled face lit up with a proud smile. But I had lied. I ate all the sweet rice dumplings myself. At first, I had tried to share them with my roommates, but I accidentally saw them throwing food in the trash. They said, this kind of unhygienic food might make you sick. I didn't want my grandma's hard work to be wasted like that. I was a teenager, full of pride, so I ended up eating all the rest of the dumplings by myself. I told Grandma to wait at the print shop. Once I got the test papers, I'd take her out for a meal. But there was a problem with the biology test paper, and I had to temporarily contact the teacher. When I finally came back out, I saw Sophie Brooks standing at the door, chatting with my grandma. I overheard Grandma asking her, "Did Ethan share those sweet dumplings with you?" Sophie Brooks paused for a moment, then smiled and replied, "Yes, they were delicious." Grandma's face immediately lit up with joy. She pulled out a small bag from her handbag. The sunlight shone on her hopeful face, her eyes sparkling. Her hands clutched the bag tightly. "I still have some here. Do you want one?" Elderly people always seem to have this habit, saving the best things for the younger generation. To my grandma, the dumplings she made were the best gift she could offer for her grandson to share. She wanted to give them to my classmates. I looked anxiously at Sophie Brooks, my heart pounding. To my surprise, she reached out and took a dumpling without hesitation, and ate it right away. "Thank you." Her eyelashes were long. In the sunlight, they cast a faint shadow. The usually sharp glint in her eyes softened. I stared, entranced, as she praised me in that soft voice, saying I studied well, worked hard, had a good temperament, and many friends. That day, my grandma was incredibly happy, and from that day on, I realized, maybe I had a little crush on her. Unrequited love is a one-person storm. I would secretly observe every gesture and movement of Sophie Brooks. I even mimicked the small motions she made while thinking, and even copied her handwriting. Whenever we accidentally touched in class, my heart would beat faster. I carefully preserved every one of those precious moments. Before the summer break of 11th grade, I finally mustered up the courage to confess my feelings to Sophie Brooks. But just then, rumors suddenly began spreading in class about her. They said her mother and older sister had been driven away by her father. That her father got drunk and caused trouble a few years ago, and had even gone to jail. Is that true? She always looks so gloomy. Feels like the kind of person who'd stab you in the back. They say violent tendencies can be inherited. We should stay away from her. Oh well, guess that means Sophie Brooks can't become a civil servant in the future. The snide, smug tone was too much. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around and glared. Are you just jealous because she always comes first and you're stuck at second place forever? The person froze, then shouted back. Are you sick? Yeah, sick of your nonsense. To be honest, I'd always been introverted, almost never arguing with anyone. But this time, I snapped. I argued fiercely, and before they could say much more, my own eyes were already red. So when Sophie Brooks walked in behind the teacher, what she saw was me, red-eyed, mid-argument, looking like a wolf pup snarling at someone. Both of us were called out to stand in the hallway as punishment. The teacher asked why we had argued. We looked at each other, and both chose to stay silent. He did it out of guilt. I did it because I was afraid Sophie Brooks would hear and feel hurt. My unrequited love ended that summer. The day I finally gathered the courage to confess to Sophie Brooks was the last day of summer break. I found her house by memory, an old, narrow alley, with houses packed tightly together. In front of her home, a few people stood around, murmuring, "He's hitting her again. Poor girl. No one's stopping it. What if he really hurts her? Can't stop him, Jimmy tried a few days ago, got beaten up by that bastard too." I hurried forward. Suddenly, loud noises erupted from the courtyard. Through the gate, I saw the inner door burst open. Sophie Brooks was thrown out violently. "You little brat." A tall man stepped out and kicked her hard. "You dare fight back?" Though big, the man was clearly drunk and unsteady. Sophie Brooks wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, stood up, and charged straight at him. Her thin body tackled him to the ground. "Why won't you just die already?" They struggled fiercely. The man grew more violent, swearing as he hit her. "Even if I die, I'll drag you with me. You brat, think you're grown now? You think you're tough? Let me tell you something, the blood in your veins is my blood. You are my daughter. You'll never escape me in this life. Look at you, fighting like me. Just like your old man." He laughed maniacally. Sophie Brooks froze, her raised hand slowly lowered. She staggered back, looking down at him. The girl had grown tall. She still didn't have the strength to fully protect herself. But like a wounded animal, she was already showing her sharpest teeth. "I am nothing like you," she said. "I'm the top student of the whole school. I've always been, and I always will be. I will get into the best university, study the best major, become someone successful, and walk a path completely opposite of yours. We've never been the same." Her words were like a bomb exploding in my heart. Suddenly, I understood why Sophie Brooks worked so hard, because she didn't believe in fate. She wanted to change it. I looked down at the love letter in my hand and felt a wave of shame. Maybe I shouldn't confess. To her, it might just be another burden. A distraction. I called the police. Only when they arrived did I quietly leave that alley, burying all my feelings deep in my heart. By the time the college entrance exams ended, Sophie Brooks wasn't just our school's top scorer, she topped the entire city's science division. Applause and flowers came in waves. Calls from prestigious universities flooded in. I got into a decent university too, but compared to her, it was nothing. That was when the distance between us truly formed. My adolescent crush ended quietly, buried under hesitation and missed chances. At the high school graduation ceremony, I stood next to Sophie Brooks, looking straight ahead. But my head tilted slightly toward her. "Sophie Brooks, I wish you a bright future." She paused for a moment. Her voice was still as clear as ever. "Thank you. I wish the same for you." That marked the end of our youth. In the quiet of the office, I looked at the woman before me, Sophie Brooks. She had made a name for herself. But, why didn't she look happy? The coffee on her desk had gone cold, papers scattered nearby, all signs of her exhaustion. The dark circles under her eyes were stark, making her look unguarded and fragile. I stared at her for a few seconds, then gently picked up the coat beside her and draped it over her shoulders. But just as I let go, someone grabbed my wrist tightly. Startled, I looked up, and met Sophie Brooks's gaze. My heart skipped a beat. Her eyes were a little unfocused at first, but they quickly sharpened. She gripped my wrist hard, her nails digging deep into my skin. I winced slightly. She released me. Her voice was hoarse. "Why are you here?" I took a step back and replied, "I came back to the office to grab some documents. Saw the light was still on here, so I stopped by." She glanced at the coat that had slipped to the floor, was silent for 2 seconds, then got up to pour herself a glass of water. Just as I was about to sneak out, I heard her call my name. I stopped. "Director Brooks, is there something else?" She looked at me for a few seconds, then said, "I'm sorry, for the way I acted in front of the interns." Her sudden apology caught me off guard. I quickly responded, "It's all right. Our team did have some issues, it's my responsibility. Don't worry about it, Director Brooks." She paused again. For no reason, I felt tense. Just as my chest tightened. She spoke again, "Go home early. Drive safe." "Okay." I gently opened the door and stepped out, exhaling a long breath. After working non-stop for 5 days, I finally got to rest Friday evening. I passed out the moment I got home. When I woke up, it was nearly 10 a.m. I picked up my phone and saw the intern group chat had exploded, hundreds of messages. Intern Vanessa had lost her necklace. It was a jade necklace her mother gave her, very meaningful to her. She'd searched everywhere and couldn't find it. They were wondering if a cleaning lady had picked it up. What if it had been swept away like trash? I sent her a voice message to comfort her, "Don't worry. Can you pinpoint roughly when it was lost? I'll help check the security footage." She thought carefully, maybe around 4 or 5 p.m. I felt hot and took off my jacket. Could it have fallen out then? I had access to the surveillance system. I opened the footage from today and went to her work area. I watched it over and over, then zoomed in. Finally, I spotted something. As she took off her jacket, a small object fell from her clothes, and a passing colleague accidentally kicked it under a desk. Relieved, I clipped the footage and sent it to her. "Thank you, Ethan. I'll pick it up on Monday." "No problem. I'm just glad it was found." As I exited the conversation and was about to close the surveillance app, my mouse slipped, and the footage jumped to 9 p.m. Sophie Brooks's figure flashed across the screen. I froze, completely shocked. She really worked until 9 p.m. At the same time, a sense of confusion started to grow in my heart. Sophie Brooks left the office after work, but she didn't pass through this side, which piqued my curiosity. I tapped the keyboard, skipping forward a few seconds in the surveillance footage. Sure enough, I saw Sophie Brooks appear on the screen, heading directly toward my workstation with clear purpose. She stopped there for about 2 seconds. After she left, I could clearly see, there were now a few white milk candies on my desk. My eyes widened. I sat up straight in bed. There were always candies on my desk. I'd assumed a colleague who came in early had left them. So I never hesitated to eat them. But now, I opened past recordings, skipped to 8 or 9 p.m. over the last few days. And sure enough, it was always Sophie Brooks leaving them behind. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A call interrupted my thoughts. Seeing the caller ID, my heart skipped a beat. Why is Sophie Brooks calling me at this hour? I answered, but a male voice came through the line. "Is this Ethan Walker?" "Yes, that's me. Director Brooks is drunk. I think you'll need to come pick her up." I drove to the bar. It was already 11 p.m. Outside the private dining room, a handsome, refined man was finishing a call. He saw me, smiled, and walked over. I froze. I recognized him. One of the interns had secretly posted a photo of him and Sophie Brooks before. Everyone said he was her fiancé. Staring at him in disbelief, I murmured, "You got here fast, Walker." He pointed inside. "Sophie drank a bit too much. Mind helping take her home?" "Sophie," he called her so affectionately. It was casual, without a second thought. A bitter feeling rose in my chest, though I kept it hidden and smiled. "Sure. Are you coming too?" I figured both had been drinking and I was being treated as the designated driver. But to my surprise, he looked stunned. "Go home? My place and hers are in completely different directions." Then he added, "Besides, my wife already came to pick me up. Don't worry about me." Wife, it hit me like a bat to the head. My thoughts scattered. He looked at me, seeming to pick up on something. "Who did you think I was?" I gave an awkward laugh. "Her fiancé." He laughed heartily. "I'm 10 years older than her." He extended his hand toward me, his eyes full of warmth. "Nice to meet you. I'm James Carter, one of Sophie Brooks's business partners." He had once been Sophie Brooks's senior and one of the original co-founders of her company. He later stepped back for family reasons and had recently started a small company with his wife. James Carter continued, "I've stayed in touch with Sophie. Tonight's dinner was to discuss a new project. She just happened to drink a bit too much." I quickly apologized. "Sorry, I misunderstood." "It's fine," he said with a smile. James Carter asked the staff to help move Sophie Brooks into my car. As I sat in the driver's seat, I awkwardly asked, "Mr. Carter, do you know her home address?" Now it was his turn to look surprised. "You don't?" I blinked. "Should I?" James Carter explained, "Aren't you her assistant?" I laughed. "No, I'm not." He apologized quickly. "My mistake. She had your number pinned at the top of her contact list. I assumed you were her assistant. Then he sent me her address. Drive safely. Even after I had been driving for a while, my heart was still pounding. His words echoed in my mind, she had your number pinned at the top of her contacts. I glanced in the rearview mirror at Sophie Brooks sleeping in the back seat. Because of the alcohol, her face was flushed, like a ripe apple. I quickly looked away, but seconds later couldn't help glancing back again. This time, our eyes met. Startled, my hands shook, the car swayed slightly. She pressed her fingers to her temple, looking a bit uncomfortable, but then she smiled. Stop staring at me. Drive carefully. Oh, okay. My heart skipped. I quickly sat up straighter, not daring to sneak another look. I should be grateful. Though drunk, Sophie Brooks wasn't completely out of it. She could still walk home on her own. Even if a bit unsteady. Once home, she collapsed onto the sofa. I rushed into the kitchen, rummaging through the cabinets. Eventually, in the bare cupboards, I found a jar of honey. I poured some into hot water. While waiting for the drink to cool, I glanced at my phone, and saw several messages from James Carter on Telegram. You looked really familiar. Now I remember why. At first, it was me who recruited you into Sophie's company. Back then, many university students came for interviews. Your resume wasn't outstanding among them, it had actually been screened out. Sophie Brooks noticed it and retrieved your resume. She said our company needed someone like you. Looking back now, it seems her initial decision wasn't bad. You're competent, patient, and tolerant. With you around, the company's cohesion has improved a lot. Keep it up, young man. That was a lot of information. I took a moment to process it and replied, someone like me? Sophie said you're a warm person. I turned to look toward the living room. Sophie Brooks was leaning back on the sofa, her chest gently rising and falling. Her breathing was a bit heavy, probably discomfort from drinking too much. I quickly prepared some honey water and brought it over. Director Brooks, I've placed the honey water on the coffee table, I called out softly. She didn't respond. My heart skipped a beat. Could she have caught a cold? Sophie Brooks, I just called you. Did you hear me? I waved my hand in front of her. Slowly, she opened her eyes and grasped the hand I was waving. She looked up at me. In her ink-black eyes shimmered a watery gleam, as if covered in a thin layer of mist. Ethan, my heart was pounding, but I tried to stay calm, pulling my hand back. Drink some water. Just as I was about to go get it, Sophie Brooks suddenly grabbed my wrist. I turned back to look. She had already sat up and wrapped her arms around my waist. I fell back onto the sofa. Her chest pressed warmly against my back, even through the shirt, I could feel her rapid heartbeat. She held me tightly around the waist, her chin resting against my side. Her voice trembled slightly, "Don't go. I'm not leaving. I feel like all the blood in my body is rushing to my face." She touched my arm vaguely, sending a shiver through me. I kept silently telling myself, Sophie Brooks is drunk. The behavior of a drunk person isn't logical. It doesn't mean anything. But her next words froze me in place. Ethan, you saw it, didn't you? Saw what? The love letter I wrote for you 10 years ago but never gave. That letter. I stared, stunned, unsure of what to say. Reflected in the window across from us was the image of Sophie Brooks and me, closely embraced, no distance between us. The atmosphere was hazy and intimate. Her voice was soft, tinged with drunkenness, yet unmistakably clear. Did you know? You're the warmest person I've ever met. She wasn't heartless, she had noticed the kindness others showed her. When she was sick, there was always a thermos of hot water on her desk. When assignments were due, someone would collect them and leave them on her table. There wasn't a silly girl in the class, there was a silly boy. But that boy hid it so clumsily that anyone could guess. The boy named Ethan Walker had always been introverted. The only time he was punished by a teacher was for defending her. His face had turned red. His scolding awkward and funny, but that moment stayed in her memory for years. No one had ever protected her so firmly before. After the college entrance exam ended, the love letter she wrote never got delivered. That day, she had the biggest fight ever with her father. He broke her arm. She smashed his head with a brick. The neighbors, terrified, called the police. As they were taken to the hospital, she looked out the ambulance window and saw Ethan Walker with his family in front of an ice cream shop, each holding an ice cream cone, laughing. A normal, happy family, one that made others envious. In the reflection of the glass, she also saw her own bruised and battered face. So what if she was an excellent student? Her life was still a mess. She was never truly cold, she was just insecure. That insecurity clung to her like a chronic illness embedded deep in her bones, impossible to remove. Impossible to escape. Her father suffered a brain hemorrhage in her second year of university and became a vegetable. She spent all her free time working part-time jobs to earn money, keeping that man alive year after year. Many people advised her back then, let it go. Why save someone so cruel? But it wasn't that Sophie Brooks wanted to save him. They told her to stop, but if she really did, those same people would say she was heartless. Like father, like daughter, same cold-blooded nature. Not a good one in the bunch. People love drama, especially when it's not their own. So she pushed herself even harder, determined to prove she wasn't like that man. 2 years ago, after lying in a hospital bed for years, that man finally couldn't hold on anymore and passed away on a sunny day. That day, Sophie Brooks stood by the hospital bed from dawn till dusk, not triumphant, not grieving, just free. She thought, if sunlight can shine on me now, maybe I don't have to keep hiding anymore. Everything she had kept buried all these years, finally faded away. Her voice echoed beside my ear. Whenever I'm with you, I hesitate, afraid I'm too late, yet afraid it's still too early. So I keep holding back. A sour ache surged in her chest. She held Ethan Walker even tighter, her heartbeat accelerating. Then, she heard herself whisper, Ethan Walker, I like you. A confession years too late. She was stunned by her own words, her eyes suddenly hot. So all these years. It wasn't just her who had secretly liked the other. Ethan Walker. Her voice became clearer, the haze of alcohol seemingly fading, but her embrace didn't loosen. She murmured, your ears are so red. Ethan Walker, flustered, gently pushed her away. It's late. You should rest, Director Brooks. I'll be going now. But as he took one step, she wrapped her arms around his waist again, her face pressed against his stomach, her palm resting over his chest. Her body warmth made him instinctively want to escape. I feel a little unwell. Can you stay with me just a bit longer? Drunk Sophie Brooks and sober Sophie Brooks were like two different people. Ethan Walker couldn't handle it. She only had to ask softly a few times and his knees nearly gave out. Seizing the moment, she pulled him back down onto the sofa, then climbed into his lap, straddling him. Her body was hot. Her gaze, even hotter. Ethan Walker didn't dare meet her eyes. Sophie, you're drunk. I'm not, she replied, looking down at him. I know who you are. I know what I'm doing. Her fingers brushed his cheek, warm to the touch. Ethan Walker looked up at her. Light gleamed on her lips. In his mind, a voice was screaming, just do it. You're both adults. What are you afraid of? You've liked each other for years. Isn't it about time you got a reward? That voice shattered his reason. He finally raised her face and kissed her. It was a brief kiss, a touch and retreat. But the moment he pulled away, her lips returned to his. At first, it was a gentle probe, like asking a question, like confirming the answer. Her lips carried the faint taste of wine, warm and soft. Ethan Walker felt his breath being stolen. His heart pounded like it was about to burst out of his chest. Sophie Brooks held his face, deepening the kiss, so tender he couldn't resist. His reason unraveled, and he sank into a sea of warmth. The world faded away. All he could feel was her breath and the lingering kiss. His hands instinctively wrapped around her waist. The next morning, Ethan Walker snuck out. As he slipped out of the apartment building, he was caught by a patrolling security guard. It was a high-end residence with tight security. The guard looked him over. "I've never seen you before. Which unit are you from?" Ethan Walker stammered as he gave Sophie Brooks's address. "Can you please let me go? I have something urgent, I need to rush home and change clothes." The security guard checked for a moment. "That's strange. You were never registered. The owner of this unit is a woman." Ethan Walker grew anxious. "I'm her boyfriend." The guard seemed to understand then. Ethan Walker let out a breath of relief and was about to leave when the guard added, "Wait a minute. I'll call the owner to confirm." Before Ethan Walker could stop him, the call had already gone through. Sophie Brooks's smile at the corner of her lips had a strange magic. It made me blush just looking at it, and yet, for some reason, an intense sense of embarrassment welled up inside. "Is it that funny?" I asked. "It's not funny," she replied, pulling my hand and leading me back into the apartment. "Why were you running away?" I didn't say anything. Actually, I was scared. I was afraid last night was just a moment of impulsiveness for Sophie Brooks. But I had already taken it seriously. She stopped walking, as if she could see right through me. She tightened her grip on my hand. "Hey, Ethan, what do you want for breakfast?" I stared at her in disbelief. "What did you just call me?" "Ethan," she said casually, leaning down a little, her face close to mine, eyes narrowed playfully. "You said it yourself." "What, want to take it back now?" "No," I turned my face away, coughed lightly. "I want noodles." Her noodle cooking skills weren't bad. I was stuffed, and when I looked up, I caught Sophie Brooks watching me with amusement in her eyes. I glared at her. "Don't laugh." She responded while still laughing, and I lowered my head to keep eating. "I already ordered some clothes for you. They'll be delivered later. Once we finish breakfast, let's head to work together." This Sophie Brooks, truly a devil. I nodded. "Yes." She braced both hands on the table, lowered her gaze toward me, and said each word clearly, "From now on, forever, together." I had always wondered, how did she know I was the one who read that love letter? Lily Walker and I didn't even look alike. My family had only just moved into the city a few years ago. There's no way she could have known that was my house. I'd asked Sophie Brooks many times, but she never told me. She always said, "Guess." But I never could. Truly, I still have no idea. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel and keeps more videos coming your way. Thank you for listening.